Give it a second. Give it a second. Wait for it.
Wait for it.
Wait for it.
for it.
Wait for it.
Welcome back to TV. My name is Sava Thurber. Dacha, the first time joining us. Welcome. This is our first time joining us. Welcome back.
Woo! Booger Night Saturday.
Yes.
Which it is every Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Welcome to episode 66. Season 2.
Strong episode.
This is going to be a fantastic episode. You have no idea.
Should we start with the riddle?
Let us begin with the riddle.
Aha.
Yeah. Let me get the music set up. And why don't you
What do you get when you cross a hen with a guitar? We got a couple answers. Kay says if they are sitting on a blue carpet or a blue mat, and the answer is chicken cordon bleu. Aha.
Ooh, I like that answer.
It's a chord because a guitar, and then blue because the blue mat. That's clever.
I like it.
Kay also says foul play. Also a good answer. Foul being a synonym for chicken variety
that
birds.
you eat.
And then obviously play guitar. So, very nice answers. The one that I had in mind was a chicken that plucks itself. Because, you pluck your guitar. But
wow, well, so congratulations, Kay. Submit a song if you'd like.
Woo.
That's awesome. And the riddle for the next episode is...
How many hairs are in a bunny rabbit's tail?
Okay, so pretty much a bunny and rabbit. Either a bunny or a rabbit. Might be the same thing. I don't know. It's got a tail, most of them. At least, hopefully. How many hairs does it have on aforementioned tail?
So again, the riddle is, how many hairs are in a bunny rabbit's tail?
Nice. Okay. Drop your answer in the comments on YouTube if you're watching there, or DM Sava if you're watching over Instagram. And on our next episode, which will be this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we will award praise
For praises due.
for correct and witty answers.
Yes, yes.
So, let's jump right in. We had a request from Professor Malinowski to discuss and play some fugues.
Ooh,
so we've played a lot of rounds on the show. A fugue is sort of like a compositionally more complex round in the sense that you have a subject, which is sort of like the theme of the fugue that repeats and re-enters the music in different voices in different keys throughout the piece. So we've got two samples of some fugues.
So really quickly.
Oh yes.
Think of a round as like having an A and a B section. And I start with the A, and then when I get to the B section, Dacha starts with the A in the exact same way. So it's just A and B, and we alternate A, B, A, B. Mm-hmm. With a fugue, let's say I start with the A, and then I continue on, and then Dacha has like an A prime.
I have a little bit different.
A little bit different.
Starts on a different
maybe like maybe an A with a little bit of pizzazz. Then he goes.
Yeah.
It's the same idea, but as you said, like maybe in a different key, different, let's say, dynamic, anything to make it different than just the A, B, A, B. It's A prime. Ooh. So that's a fugue. Anyway,
Yes.
Continue.
So the master of the fugue, Johann Sebastian Bach, the 17th/18th century composer, lived and worked in Leipzig, Germany. One of my favorite composers. Arguably one of the most revolutionary, transformative composers. Wrote for the Lutheran Church, so a lot of his music was
Lutheran.
for the organ, because that's what they played in the church. But, of course, he had a tremendous repertoire, and even in some periods of his life, composed secular music. So, our first sample of a fugue, a little side note, actually. Fugues for the organ, which is sort of Bach's go-to instrument, often had a lot more than two voices. 4, for example, is a number that's more than 2, and a number that is also representative of the number of voices in some of Bach's fugues. However, building off of that point, this first sample comes from the G minor Little Fugue, which is the BWV 578. BWV is a way of cataloging all of Bach's compositions. So every single one of Bach's compositions has a BWV number, a unique BW. It's like the serial number for the composition. So this happens to be 578.
Is it like an opus? Like sometimes I see op.
An opus? No, an opus is a period of works from a composer. So an opus, for example, in Opus 18, Beethoven wrote 4 string quartets. Opus is a period of time in a composer's life.
It's not
in which they write music.
So it's not like this piece is Opus 18, but it's like Opus 18 is like a little cabinet that you open and inside.
Exactly.
Okay.
And opus is usually a chronological.
Right. So it goes in order.
Yeah.
But
the BWV is a catalog number. Catalog. Each piece is a unique BWV.
It's like
anyway,
like a Dewey Decimal.
Yeah. Sort of like that, but there are no decimals because they're all integers. Woo!
My boy,
let's go.
Dewey really coming in handy.
So this fugue,
Dewey.
This fugue is written for 4 voices. However, we've only got 2, so we'll play the initial subject. I'll play the initial subject. Sava will play the second voice and its entrance, so that you can hear the entrance of the second subject in the fugue, and then we'll go to our second sample. So, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
That's the entrance of the third voice in the fugue.
So you can see what I mentioned, what Dacha originally mentioned, and then I rephrased it earlier. There's the initial, we call it a subject. It's kind of like the, what's the word? It's like
theme. It's like the theme.
Well, yeah, but it's yeah,
melody.
Okay. And then when I get it, I get it. So same interval, same pattern, but
a fourth down.
A fourth down, yeah. Anyway,
very nice. So now we're turning to another example of Bach fugue. This time we're going to play all the voices because Bach wrote several fugues, complete fugues for solo violin, meaning a single violin. This is one of the most revolutionary things that has ever happened in the history of music. A fugue was always something that you played with 10 fingers on an organ, or that
and 2 feet.
And also, 2 feet.
Yeah.
And or that you played in a quartet with 4 voices or more. But Bach was so smart and knew so much about music, and in this case the violin, that he could write a fugue that was technically possible to play on a violin. And
difficult, but possible.
With 4 voices. So Sava will play a sample from the beginning, then I'll play a sample from the middle of this fugue. This is the G minor fugue from the first sonata. This is BWV 1001.
So he just finished writing 1,000 pieces, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to write this
I don't think the BWV numbers were chronological, but here we go. No. So this is the very beginning. So you'll hear the first subject, which will be played alone, and then you'll hear the line continue while the second subject enters, and those 2 lines will continue, and then eventually a third subject will enter, and you'll still have those 2 lines bumbling along as you're listening to that third subject, and then you'll continue in 3 voices, bouncing around, getting hints of the subject material in those 3 voices. I'll like point at Sava every time there's an entrance of the subject. So here we go.
So just so you know, to listen to the subject is.
Yeah.
And then
that'll a much shorter subject. The previous fugue had a subject bum 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 bum, etc. etc. This is just bum 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 bum. That's it. So you'll hear that subject come on. So here we go. Here's the entrance to the first subject. etc., etc.
Yeah.
So there you have you end on 3 voices, and it actually expands to 4 voices eventually.
And what's interesting is
Here, let's move over a little
with
bit.
4 voices. So we played a 4-voice fugue originally for organ, but then arranged for string quartet. That was the first piece we played on the show today. But here, Bach takes those 4 voices and throws it on a violin, and it's possible on a violin because the violin has 4 strings, so you can play each string uniquely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, here we go. So this is going to start in 1 voice and very quickly expand to 4 voices.
Right.
This will not have. Well, no, that's not true. Here we go.
So here. Oh yeah.
So hear that. You get 4 voices going on because the violin has 4 strings. So that's cool. That's a fugue.
Heck yeah.
Subjects entering in different voices. So yeah, Sava will now discuss the squat from the previous show. Go ahead.
Maybe a little clarification. Okay.
You do the squat.
I'll do the squat. The squat. Sava's tough question of the day. STQOTD. The squat was how many cards are in a deck of Uno. Uno is a good card game. You should also try it out. The answer, Heike and Kay both got it right. The answer is 108. Congratulations there. A little pat on the back, maybe some kudos. A little sprinkle of kudos. And y'all get a song rec as your prize. Thank you very much. You're welcome. And then the squat for next episode, this coming Tuesday. What is the name of the last boss in the video game Street Fighter 3? Yeah, that's the squat. Again, what is the name of the last boss in the video game Street Fighter 3?
Sorry, say it again.
What is the name of the last boss in the video game Street Fighter 3?
I don't know. I have no clue. I have no idea.
That's what makes it tough.
Yep. Submit your answers in the comments on YouTube or DM Sava if you're over Instagram. And
should we do some sayings?
Let's do some. No, actually, hold on. Wait a second. Let's do another piece, and then we'll do the sayings. Our next piece is a song rec from our friend Kay, who requested. Oh, just kidding. Stay tuned on Tuesday for I put the music on the stand, and then I looked at it, and then remembered to plan on Tuesday. Stay tuned for Kay's song request on Tuesday. That's Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
That's 2 days from now. Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday.
3 days from now.
2
We're
days
going to continue Season 2's series of Bartok's 44 violin duets.
Season 2 is Season of Bartok.
That's right,
among
Season of
other
Bartok.
things.
So we find ourselves at number 10, the Ruthenian song.
We're almost a quarter of the way through.
Listen for, in this one, a fairly constant bass line that I'll play, and Sava's melody. Listen for small variations in the bass line that change the mood of the piece, change the tonality a little bit.
I just realized bass line is a musical term that we can talk just a little bit about.
Let's play this, and then we'll talk about the bass line.
Okay.
What you need to know for now is the bass line is the lowest voice, the deepest voice, usually the deepest voice, and often sets the key, sets some sort of like structure, some sort of harmonic structure. But listen for, I'll be playing the bass line. Sava will be playing. So listen, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So the bass line, I heard it was lower.
Right.
So and
So bass sometimes can refer to an instrument, a bass guitar or standing double bass. Bass in the phrase bass line, in the context of the phrase bass line, means like the lowest voice. And so sometimes if you're in an orchestra, that can be the standing double bass. It could be the tuba. It could be the trombones. It could just be like a low voice if you're in a jazz band. It could be the bass guitar. It could be also tuba, depending on what kind of jazz band you're playing in. Sometimes the bass line, if you're in some sort of chorale group, could be the baritone, or if you have a bass voice, it could be the bass line. And the bass line is basically the part that player has. Most of the time, it is in sync with the key that the piece is in. So if there's a piece in let's say G major, then the bass line would most likely, in some cases, alternate.
It would be at the beginning and the end. It would probably be in G major.
Right. So like G.
The bass line is sort of the fundamental foundation of the piece. So it's sort of the piece. A lot of the times, the harmony of the piece is built off of the bass line.
Yeah. If you're thinking of Seven Nation Army is one song that comes to mind for bass line.
But that's a sort of a riff. Anyway, number 11 is the cradle song. Listen for, you may recognize this from season 1, by the way, but listen for cradling. Also, interestingly, this is a piece that's polytonal, meaning the two voices, I'm one voice, I was the other voice, are in different keys, almost always, almost without exception, at least in sort of traditional music. When you have lots of voices playing together, they're all written in the same key. They all have the same key signature.
So it sounds good.
Yeah, which we'll discuss next Saturday. We'll be discussing keys next Saturday. Tune in for a little instructional session on key signatures and keys. However, this number 11 here, the cradle song, is written so that the two voices have different keys. Sava has an F sharp, which is
G major.
Usually, means G major. I have a key signature that doesn't really define a traditional key on the circle of fifths, which is something that we're going to talk about on Saturday. But for now, what you need to know is that nobody ever writes in this key. It's weird. And not only that, it's different than what the other voice has. So
A flat major with a...
It's just weird.
With a sharp 5.
Just listen for...
And a sharp...
Listen for a little bit of, dissonance, but like...
Because it's
beyond
D flat, so.
Beyond dissonance. Like Sam and I are just not seeing eye to eye in this one, but somehow we're playing together. So, here we go.
That sounds like the beginning of Rite of Spring.
Maybe that last interval, it's called a tritone, which we'll discuss in a future episode. That's also known as the Devil's Interval. It's known for being uneasy and deceptive and other unsettling things.
You know why? One I don't know if it's a theory or this is why, but originally when pieces were played in churches, it was usually on an organ, and so for a long time, tritones were kind of against the law. The reason being, when you play a tritone on an organ, it's because the frequencies, like the frequencies are so close that they don't. How do I want to?
They don't quite fit together.
Yeah.
It's like trying to fit together. It's trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It's like, it might work, but it just doesn't work.
And so there was a lot of like wah 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 wah, and that actually caused some of the windows to rattle.
Is that true?
I think so. I mean, it would make sense that it would. So the windows would rattle, and all the people in the church where the organ is playing, they'd be like, "Uh-oh, the windows are rattling. That can't be a good sign." Which is why it's called like the devil's chord. Like that's kind of the
Interval.
Or the devil's interval. So,
well, there you go.
The more you know.
The more you know. I don't know. I've never heard that.
I read it off of one place called Wikipedia, I think. No, I'm playing.
It's joke time.
Joke.
Woo!
Joke time. No. What is it?
How do you keep
joke time.
your bagel from running away? Oh, a classic joke.
I haven't heard it before. I don't know why.
You put locks on it. As in 7.
No,
why
locks.
why don't calculus majors ever throw parties?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Oh, because it's not good to drink and derive.
Oh!
By which we mean water and juice.
Grape juice.
Just juice.
Grape juice with spice.
Just juice. What do you call an apology written in lines and dots? This is good.
I don't know what.
A remorse code.
Oh, like remorse,
like
but
Morse.
Morse.
I said Morse code.
Yeah.
What is Forrest Gump's password?
I'm surprised you get this. I don't know why.
1, Forrest, 1.
Like the number 1 and then Forrest and then 1. But like run. That's the joke. So it's supposed to be funny.
Oh boy. What do you call a chicken staring at lettuce?
Is that a laugh?
Yeah,
Did I
it's
get
a funny one. It's a funny one.
I don't know what.
It's called chicken Caesar salad.
Ah!
As in the chicken Caesar salad, but
Caesar.
Caesar
salad.
a salad because it's staring at lettuce.
Yeah.
Nice.
The joke could also be, what do you call a chicken who's stealing lettuce? Chicken seizes a salad.
Oh, chicken Caesar salad.
Seizes
I like this
salad.
one. Let's stick with this one. Sweet, it's time for our next song, which comes to you from the wonderful, it was the first color movie, probably, The Wizard of Oz.
Well, not the first one, among the first. This is actually something we discussed in season 1. It was the first, color film to use a coloring technique, and now the name is escaping me, where they actually, use, some sort of chemicals and lighting technique to get the color on the film. As opposed to one person coloring individually each one.
Groundbreaking film.
Yeah.
This is the song, the one and only, Over the Rainbow.
From The Wizard of Oz.
Needs no introduction.
But we just
gave it one. So here we go. Ooh!
Oh yeah.
Somewhere
Over the rainbow.
over the rainbow.
Bluebirds.
Speaking of which, Sava's going to teach us about some sayings.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that has to do with this, but
Speaking of which, anyway.
speaking of which, I was actually speaking of the word witch.
Back to the drawing board. Meaning, back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the drawing board began with a cartoon in the March 1st, 1941 issue of the New Yorker magazine. A drawing board is an architect or drafter's table and is used to prepare designs for cartoons. The cartoon by the American artist Peter Onroe depicts a number of World War II military personnel running toward a plane that has just crashed. There is a man in a suit holding a set of plans under his arm, walking away from the crash, and the caption reads, "Well, back to the old drawing board." By the late 1940s, the expression had become widespread and referred to any failed design.
Nice. Well, refer to what you do after you notice that your design has failed.
Well, yes.
Just for clarification.
Speaking of which, baker's dozen.
Baker's dozen, which is actually 13?
13. Baker's dozen dates all the way back to the 13th century. Speaking of 13.
No!
In 1266.
They figured they needed a dozen to be a new type of dozen for the times. And being the 13th century, they decided that 13 eggs would be, and 13 coffee cake muffins would be an appropriate number for the baker's dozen. And all the bakers were thrilled. Because, don't know why they called it the baker's dozen. That's why they were thrilled.
I mean, do you want
They
me to like...
thrived off the confusion of why they called it the baker's dozen. They thought it was novel and interesting and beautiful, and so they bought more coffee cake muffins and eggs. The chickens were also very happy because they were doing a brisk business. They sold slightly under 10% more eggs, because back in the 13th century, all eggs were sold in groups of 12. That's not often discussed in the history books. Nobody ever bought eggs in groups that were other than 12. If you bought an egg, you bought 12 eggs. That's not true at all. Sorry.
No, I like what you said at the end. If you bought an egg, you bought 12 eggs. I mean, do you want me to tell you why it's called a baker's dozen?
I'm thriving off the confusion. Please, enlighten me.
In 1266, England, King Henry III introduced a law that regulated the price of bread, not eggs.
Ooh.
Based on the price of wheat.
Sorry.
Wheat. We spent like... One of the reasons for this was to stop bakers from selling underweight loaves. I hate underweight loaves. The punishment for breach of the law was harsh and could result in many bad things. As a safety measure to avoid the penalties, bakers would give an extra loaf of bread for every dozen. The 13th loaf was known as the Vantage Loaf.
And hence, thus was born the baker's dozen. There's nothing to do with the chicken's egg business.
To bank on someone. Want to take this one?
Banking on someone is stems from the a neo-Yugoslavian tradition of building banks when you wanted to prove somebody wrong. For example, say that you are trying to convince me that the baker's dozen was an initiative started by the chickens who wanted to sell more eggs. And if I were banking on you, I would build a bank between us, because a bank is often a sturdy building, especially those with vaults. And if I built one between us, then I wouldn't have to talk to you, and I wouldn't have to listen to the things you were trying to convince me about.
Actually, kind of close.
Really?
Bank? No.
Oh. Well, it was worth a shot.
Banking on someone is an expression that began in medieval Venice.
Oh.
Not Neo-Yugoslavia.
Yeah, I was close enough.
Before the days of modern banks. At the time, Venice was the hub of world trade, and men set up benches in the main plazas to trade the various world currencies that appeared in the city from merchants and travelers.
Time out. Venice is in Italy, and it's right here. Hold
on. These men acted like banks, and the Italian word for bench also happens to be banco.
Bunko.
Banco. Traders would exchange currencies with these men, borrowing from them and even leave money with them. The men had high scruples. The men had high scruples and were. What's a scruple?
Keep going.
You're a scruple.
You are.
The men had high scruples and were universally trusted. They were regarded as men who could be banked on. Too many scruples. Alright. Speaking of which, we have to wash our hands.
Yes! Sometimes.
Because there's a bug going around.
Sometimes if you find yourself with too many scruples and you have to wash them off, you gotta wash your hands for exactly the length of time that it will take us to play this song, which we will play twice. Here we go! Thank you for joining us. I'm Doodlebeat. Thank you for bearing with our shenanigans. We'll see you on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Eastern Daylight Time.
Right here.
Right now.
Signing
on
off.
7.